Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and dear gods of Mount Olympus, what the heck is that? Now literally, this has become ridiculous. It's a freaking obsession, so here is a rant video. You're welcome. You know that I love ancient Rome and generally speaking any movie that is set in the classical period. Because, you know, weapons, armor, epicness, who doesn't like them? But as you know, I love real Roman history and archaeology and whatnot. And here's the thing, I was watching the movie Gladiator the other day and I was noticing all these leather wristbands on basically every other Roman, and I was like, I wonder why filmmakers are so obsessed with this. Then I was watching the movie Centurion, and guess what? Here they are. The movie The Eagle, Netflix series, HBO Rome, literally it's everywhere, and it's in contrast to what we actually see in all sorts of evidence that we have, whether it be funeraries, from statuary to paintings to mosaic, you name it, it's just not there. So I thought, when did this Hollywood trope begin? Is it a modern thing? Ha! No. I mean, you can go back to the 1950s. You can actually go back to the 1930s. It's there. It's everywhere. And it's not even just the Romans. The Greeks, the Egyptians, it's like people in the classical period, you couldn't leave your home if you didn't have your leather bracelet. And I am sick of it. Now, I'm not saying that it never ever happened that a Roman wore some sort of bracelet or wristband or what, you name it. No, I'm not saying it never happened. It possibly did, but it was not so universal, ubiquitous as they make it. Absolutely not. Now, given archaeological remains don't really help us much, because if it's leather bracelets they were looking for, well, them being organic, of course they would deteriorate. But statues of emperors don't show anything. Paintings, nothing. Statuary, nothing. Monumental buildings, nothing. As I said, mosaic, gladiatorial combat. So please stop with this obsession. The way it is now, it's if you are representing people in the classical period, everybody has to have some sort of wrist decoration. It's like a mandatory law, rule, whatever you want to call it. Feels like these characters would feel naked if they didn't wear one. It really drives me nuts. It doesn't matter if they're military, it doesn't matter if they're poor, it doesn't matter if they're rich, doesn't matter where they're from. You don't leave your home without your wrist leather bands, occasional metal. And it happens in documentaries too. And I'm starting to see it in reenactment societies as well. We have become so saturated in our minds with this image that it's been imprinted in our brains that now if Romans or Greeks or Etruscans don't wear leather bracelets, it feels like there is something wrong in that impression. I think it's dangerous because it changes the way we perceive the past. And again, I'm not saying that it never happened. I'm sure someone did have something like that. But the way it's perceived now, it's like let me breathe. It's giving us a wrong impression. I really feel that if we could resurrect an ancient Roman and we showed him all this stuff, he'd be like, what the heck are they wearing? I mean, imagine if in 1,000 years from now, movie makers, you know, started to set their movies in the early 2000s because, you know, it's something that people like watching, and every single human being, whether it be someone from France or from England or from America or from Japan or India, was represented wearing blue jeans. Everyone. Doesn't matter if you're in the military, doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, everyone wears blue jeans. There's no other kind of trousers allowed. It's just what people wore. And it's simply not true. And this is basically what these movie companies are doing. They are taking a piece of clothing which probably wasn't even as popular as blue jeans would be. It would be something in the lines of the occasional Muppet who wore it, and make it appear as if it was just something that was globalized into everybody's mind. And then as you reach the Middle Ages, they disappear. Now, I've read a theory which I found rather interesting, which could be that early movie makers, you know, in the 50s and in the 90s, sort of had to do it because at the time, differently from now, when you wanted to know what the time was, you didn't look at your phone, of course, but you would wear a watch. And clearly, when you remove your watch, because you can't wear your watch, or if you're representing an ancient Roman, you would still see the mark where your watch was because of, you know, tanning and sunlight, and therefore they needed to cover that up. And so they had the actors wear some sort of, you know, bracelets, and I believe that they did that in the movie Ben-Hur or Quo Vadis this as well. So that makes sense, I understand. But now they don't need that. Nobody wears a watch anymore. Well, maybe some people, but you know what I mean. I haven't worn my watch since I was like friggin' 14. I think now if you were a movie maker of like, I don't know, in 2020, 2019, and you want to represent a romance, what do? You just look at what other famous movie makers, successful movie makers did, and you just copy it. It has become something that you either do it like this or you're going to be the exception to the rule, and you're like, you know, these people, they made a fortune out of it, and people, general public loves the romance represented like that. It just gives an idea, it gives you the feeling of a complete costume, if you will. It looks good and pleasing to the modern general public eye, and so now you can't represent a romance if you don't do that, and I don't like it. I think it would be so much better to represent these people according to what we know, according to actual evidence, because it would be closer to what these people actually wore. It's like this, it's a similar situation that we have with, you know, people, movie makers represented the Middle Ages as being dark and gloomy and dirty and brown, and everything was black and everyone was miserable, whereas we know for a fact it was actually not like that. You know, medieval people, they would wash themselves, medieval people brushed their teeth, medieval people loved wearing bright colors like blues and yellows and red and greens, but oh no, in the movies it's just the medieval period. Everybody was miserable, everything was black and brown and grey, and there were no colors, and everybody was dirty, they wouldn't, you know, and it's just not true, and it's become something that now the general population perceives to be true. I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day. We were playing For Honor, great game by the way, and he was like saying, medieval period, must have been so bad, you know, everything was brown and black and dirty and disgusting, and people were murdering each other, they had no respect for life. And I was like, mate, by the way, his name is Johnny. I was like, Johnny, have you ever actually looked at what medieval people wore? Have you ever seen a museum picture representing medieval clothing? Because it's simply not true. We know what they wore, and it's not like that. Not to mention some of the, you know, the upper class clothing was absolutely stunning. Stunning, mate. I like that word, stunning. And in terms of, you know, people gave no value to life because they were murdering each other, well, you know, we bombed people up to 50 years ago, and a bomb kills a lot more than sword and shield. Yeah, what about Second World War? How many people died? So the point I'm trying to draw with this video is, stop with the frigging obsession of the leather wristband. Pretty please. Thank you. Like, really? Please. Anyhow, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for my next video. Ciao, ciao.